The restaurant lights shimmered like 1,000 tiny stars, but Claire Benson had never felt more invisible. She sat alone at a table set for two, her green sweater glowing softly beneath the warm Christmas decor. Around her, laughter circled the room like music she could no longer hear. Her hands trembled slightly as she checked her phone again, one more desperate hope that her Christmas date had simply been delayed. But the screen stayed dark. No message. No call. No apology. Just silence. A sharp, familiar loneliness pressed into her chest, the kind that made it hard to breathe. She had promised herself she would try again, open her heart, believe in good people, but once again, the universe seemed determined to teach her a different lesson. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and unexpected miracles, make sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Stories like this are made for hearts like yours. Claire swallowed the sting in her throat and forced her gaze away from the empty chair across from her. The restaurant, a cozy, elegant place in Charleston, South Carolina, was bustling with families and couples celebrating early Christmas dinners. Wreaths hung from every column, and garlands twinkled with lights that blurred as tears filled her eyes. She stared down at the unlit candle on her table and wondered how she had convinced herself this year would be different. She wasn't new to disappointment. Her last relationship had ended with more apologies than affection, more excuses than effort. After that, she'd spent months rebuilding herself, piece by fragile piece, learning again to trust her instincts. Tonight was supposed to be a fresh start, a date with someone who seemed genuinely kind, thoughtful, and excited to meet her. Instead, she felt like the punchline to a cruel joke, sitting alone in a room full of warmth she couldn't seem to touch. She blinked hard, brushed away a tear, and told herself she'd get up soon, just a few more minutes to gather her strength. But before she could reach for her purse, a soft voice broke through the hum of the restaurant. At first, she thought she imagined it. But then she looked up and saw something she never expected, a smiling little girl, maybe 7 or 8 years old, standing beside her table with a teddy bear tucked beneath her arm. Claire froze, her sadness momentarily stunned into silence. The girl's eyes sparkled with the sincerity only children possess, open, fearless, warm. And then the girl said it, the words that would change everything. "Dad says we need you." In that moment, Claire forgot how to speak. Her gaze flicked behind the girl to a man approaching with a gentle, apologetic smile. He wore a navy coat, his hair neatly combed, his shoulders broad but relaxed. There was something kind in his eyes, something steady, something safe. And suddenly Claire realized he must have noticed her earlier, sitting alone, trying her hardest not to cry. The girl beamed up at Claire as if she had known her forever. "Dad said you look like you need a friend," she continued, hugging her teddy bear tighter. "And we're really good at being friends." Claire felt the tears return, but this time they warmed her eyes instead of burning them. She looked at the man, who now stood close enough for her to see the gentle concern etched across his face. He wasn't pitying her, she could sense that instantly. He was offering something different, something far more human, compassion. His name, she later learned, was Mark Turner, widowed for nearly 3 years, raising his daughter Harper on his own. He hadn't planned to approach her, not at first. But Harper, bright, observant, and endlessly determined, had whispered to him that the lady in green needs some Christmas magic, and Mark had decided Harper was probably right. Claire wasn't used to strangers noticing her pain, much less reaching out with such innocence and warmth. She hesitated, torn between embarrassment and the strange, gentle pull of hope. But Harper reached out, her small hand resting lightly on Claire's arm, and something inside Claire softened, melted, surrendered. Harper tugged lightly at her dad's coat and giggled. "Dad says we need more nice people. And you look really nice." Mark's cheeks flushed slightly with embarrassment, but Claire laughed softly, really laughed, for the first time that evening. He pulled out the empty chair across from her and asked, in the most respectful, careful way, if they could sit with her for a few minutes. The minutes became moments. The moments became connection. Mark explained that they were celebrating their annual Turner Christmas dinner, something Harper insisted they do every year in honor of her mother, who had loved the season more than anyone. Mark had been nervous coming here. Holidays still carried their own kind of heaviness, but Harper insisted they try somewhere new. Because new places bring new happy memories, she had said. Claire listened, captivated by the small family's bond, by the tenderness Mark held for Harper, by the way he spoke of his late wife with respect rather than sorrow that drowned him. Claire shared pieces of her own story, not everything, not the painful parts that still felt raw, but enough for Mark to understand why this night had been hard for her. Harper filled the table with stories about her school projects, her favorite Christmas songs, and the gingerbread house she had tried to build but accidentally crushed. Claire found herself smiling so much her cheeks hurt. And each time Harper laughed, Claire felt another crack in her heart slowly heal. There, in that restaurant glowing with holiday joy, something inside Claire shifted. She didn't feel alone anymore. She didn't feel abandoned or foolish. She felt seen. Not by a date who couldn't even bother to show up, but by a little girl who had walked straight into her grief with the simple bravery of kindness, and by a man who understood what it meant to lose pieces of yourself and try again anyway. As dinner went on, Mark surprised her, not with grand gestures, but with small, thoughtful ones. He listened carefully, asked questions with genuine interest, laughed quietly when Harper made silly faces to cheer Claire up. He noticed when she shivered and asked if she'd like to switch seats to be farther from the draft. He noticed when her voice wavered and softened his tone. He noticed her, fully, respectfully, sincerely. Claire hadn't realized how much she missed that true presence, without expectation. The restaurant slowly emptied, but their table remained bright and warm. Harper had grown so attached to Claire that she insisted they share dessert, because Christmas calories don't count. And when the waiter brought out a small chocolate cake with a lit candle, something he said they deserved for making the night brighter, Claire felt a lump rise in her throat. Harper leaned across the table, her voice hushed but excited. "Make a wish," she whispered. "Dad says wishes work best on Christmas." Claire closed her eyes, her heart overflowing with gratitude she hadn't expected to feel tonight. She didn't need a date. She didn't need perfection. She needed connection, kindness, and the courage to believe that not every disappointment meant the end of hope. Her wish, she realized, was already beginning to come true. As the evening drew to a close, Mark walked Claire outside. Snow hadn't been forecasted, but tiny flurries drifted through the air, catching the light like bits of silver. Harper held Claire's hand as if refusing to let her disappear into the night. Before saying goodbye, Mark admitted softly that he hadn't planned on talking to anyone tonight. He had been focused on making Christmas special for Harper, not imagining his own heart might find a spark again. But then he saw Claire, quiet, hurting, trying not to break, and something inside him said he couldn't just walk past. Claire smiled, tears forming again. But this time, they were tears of healing. She exchanged numbers with Mark, not because she felt obligated or swept away by emotion, but because something honest had bloomed between them, something fragile, beautiful, and worth exploring. Harper hugged her tightly before they left, whispering that she hoped Claire would come to their gingerbread house remake next week. When the door closed behind them and Claire stood beneath a cascade of Christmas lights, she felt an overwhelming sense of wonder. Her date hadn't shown up. But perhaps fate had. If this story has touched your heart in any way, please make sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Your support helps bring more meaningful stories to life. Before you go, tell us in the comments. Have you ever experienced an unexpected moment of kindness that changed everything?